So our next guest is Brilyn Hollyhand. He is the chair of the Republican National Committee Youth Advisory Council. He's also an author of One Generation Away, Why Now is the Time to Restore American Freedom. I've had the opportunity to interview him at Axios and really wanted to give you all the opportunity to ask some questions for him as well. Brilyn, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Eugene, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the having me and Aaron Golden as well. So really great team and a wonderful room of next generation leaders there. That's really exciting to get to talk tonight. Appreciate it.
Awesome, awesome. So, what are you looking for? I mean, we already know you are solidly on Trump Vance and have been since day one, at least Trump before Vance came on. But what are you looking to hear from both of these candidates tonight?
Yeah, first off, I don't really see tonight affecting the polling too much. When you break down the numbers, neither convention really brought polling bumps to either candidate, nor did the previous presidential debate affect polling much at all. So I doubt really tonight's going to have much of, enough substance or viewership to shift this race at all. I do think that a lot of my peers and peers in the audience as well agree with me when I say that we simply tonight just want to hear a productive conversation. We didn't see that last time, and that was frustrating in the previous debate. We would love to actually see politicians stop screaming at each other and stop talking to each other. Wouldn't that really be cool, Eugene, to have that? I was in Milwaukee with President Trump and Senator Vance the entire week of the GOP convention, and every single night of the convention, there was a different theme. It was Make America Safe again, Make America Strong again, Make America Powerful again. Really wonderful sayings. But what I think we need to hone in on is making America talk again. That's a bipartisan effort that I think Gen Z can lead the charge on and has been leading the charge on. Seeing that tonight happen with a constructive, productive conversation is something that would be, fresh for young, people to see, youth voters like myself who voting for the first time. And finally, as for policy specifically, I really would love to see a lot of foreign affairs conversation. Would love to see both candidates say how they would de-escalate what we've seen happen just in the past few hours over in the Middle East. And then finally, the economy, just like we were talking about with the previous guest, that's something that's affecting our generation. It's a fact that it's harder for our generation, to start out life, to start a family, to start a home. These are real things that are affecting Americans every day, the cost of living. Hearing both sides present a plan tonight without being able to scream at each other is something I hope to see. So we'll see what happens.
Awesome. So, when it comes to issues, as an insider, I imagine that you probably have heard a lot about where Trump and Vance stand. But the reality is, not all voters are as plugged in as you. It's fair to say that most voters aren't as plugged in as you. What are some issues you feel like Vance perhaps needs to speak to win some of the voters who are not backing Trump and Vance so far?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I spoke with the campaign team this afternoon and I said, listen, you've got to tell them to start very simply out with the very first opening statement and saying, let's take a moment and look out at the world tonight. Our ally Israel is getting hit really hard with what's being described as the largest ballistic missile attack in history. That didn't happen under Donald Trump. We didn't have a World War III attempt under Donald Trump. You might not love the guy's personality. You might not love the guy's tweets. I didn't love every tweet that was sent, but he brought peace through strength. He brought back that Reagan-esque type of diplomacy. And I think JD Vance is the perfect person to be able to say that. JD Vance is somebody that's been, very well stated in the media coverage that he's somebody that opposed Donald Trump in 2016 because he didn't love his brash personality. He can be the first person to come out tonight and say, I don't love the guy's personality, but his peace through strength message is better than the weakness through chaos we're seeing tonight. The current commander-in-chief, he spent the weekend at the beach. The vice president was fundraising today and then came into that press conference with no questions this evening. Having somebody sit on the stage tonight and actually answer that and start out with that conversation, I think would be important. The economy, I mentioned it, but again, I think it's that important to talk about as a main point of this debate. It was talked a little bit about in the presidential debate, the first or second question, having a longer form conversation tonight where we can actually discuss each candidate's full plan would be really cool to see. Hopefully we get that.
You may have seen the Harvard Youth poll that came out, I believe, a week ago. And as it showed, like most young people your age do not see these issues and these candidates the way you just explained. If Vance and Trump are going to be successful, especially in a number of swing states, they're going to have to make some inroads with Gen Z voters and maybe younger millennials. What do you think they could do to win over this voting bloc?
Yeah, so I'll tell you an idea that I shared with President Trump that he actually did listen to, and an idea that I've shared that hopefully he will be listening to soon. The first one was him getting back on mainstream social media platforms. So last fall, him and I were together at a fundraiser, and the way the Secret Service has it set up when he's backstage, you've got a little black curtain around where he's standing, and they pulled the curtain back. I walk in, I can't do a Trump impression, but he waves his hand to the air, and he goes, "Brilyn, what can we do to win the youth vote?" And I said, "Mr. President, well, I think it's simple. You've got to get on mainstream platforms." And he said, "Oh, I'm on social media. They say I'm on social media too much." And I said, "Well, true social isn't social media. You've got to go places where young people are if you're going to win young people's votes." And so with that conversation, I shared, you have tens of millions of followers on Instagram, but you're not using your app. Actually get on Instagram, go to where young people are. And then I said, "You're not going to like this, sir, but I really think you should get on TikTok." And oh, that's a security threat. I said, "Mr. President, but it's where young people are. If we continue to just boycott the app while it's not banned in the United States, our opponents are on there, filling up the 40 pages of my peers." He's gotten on the platform. He's got the fastest growing TikTok account. He listened to that idea. The second idea is something that I pitched the campaign repeatedly, and we saw a little bit of it this past weekend. He came to my hometown of Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Bryant-Denny Stadium was packed with 100,000 people for the Alabama-Georgia college football game. And he came, did a big welcome, waved, threw out popcorn, and went and sat in the box and had this standing ovation, the loudest the student section got the entire game. And it was cool to see him be there with young people. I think Trump and Vance need to be on college campuses every single weekend, tailgating, doing voter registration drives, partnering with fraternities, partnering with sororities, making that effort. And finally, you mentioned your polling. A lot of other polling is showing that we're not performing well with young female voters. That's a group we desperately need to win over in the next, I guess we're at 35 days now. I think seeing Melania Trump and Usha Vance partner together to do some type of campaign touring on college campuses, sororities specifically, would be really cool. We haven't really seen them on the campaign. That's something that we need to do to win over that voting group.
Awesome. Well, Brilyn, we're going to open the floor up a bit to some of the
Amazing.
attendees. If you can please share your name and your Harvard affiliation and your question for Brilyn, excuse me, about how he is engaging the debate or some larger issue related to the election.
Not everybody at once.
Hi, my name is Doug Bafford. I teach writing at Harvard College. Simple question. Which campaign do you think has more to lose tonight?
So I think Tim Walz. Tim Walz is somebody that has come onto the scene a little bit later than JD Vance. He's got somebody that it really, the American people don't know him as well. So seeing him kind of explain himself to the American public is going to be interesting. I think, JD Vance is new to politics. He did really well in his debate in 2022 against Tim Ryan, and that really tight Ohio Senate race. It was a race that a lot of pundits say he kind of brought himself over the top in that election that people didn't really think he'd win because of his final debate performance. So seeing that tonight would be cool. But I really think that this is the opportunity for Walz to explain himself more, because we really haven't seen that yet. We've seen his personality. He looks great on social media, but explaining the policies since he's just come into this race in the past few weeks is something I'm at least looking forward to seeing. I think a lot of other young people are as well. But nice to meet you.
Let's take another question.
Hi, my name's Henry. Last year I served as the vice chair for the high school Dems, so I guess similar youth involvement, but on the different side of the aisle. So I wanted to ask, do you think young people are going to tune into the debate tonight? And if so, do you think it's going to increase their engagement in politics?
Great question, and congrats on your involvement at such an early age. That's amazing. I love to see that. So yes, I do think young people are going to tune in. I know at least in my high school, I'm a senior in high school, it's required from an AP Gov class to watch tonight. And so we have to write a whole paper on it this evening. It's really interesting to see, if they actually tune in or if they chat GPT it. But I really find it fascinating that so many young people tuned into the very first debate, the presidential debate. And so many people were bringing it up when we were doing these college campus tours the past few weeks of actual genuine, oh, I like this point, I didn't like this point. I think they will tune in. Obviously not as much as the presidential debate. There's not as much pomp and circumstance around it. But I find it interesting that because there's not as much pomp and circumstance, I think that the temperature won't be as high that we can have a more constructive conversation. And instead of coming in all hot and heavy at the beginning and kind of, this tension, that kind of made it more of a fiery debate. If that is true, and if this is a less, tension-heavy debate, I think it can drive young people to be more involved in politics. Hopefully, young people look at this as this isn't something just to pay attention to in the few months leading up to election cycle, but it's something like, all of you in this room do. This is your life, watching the polling, watching the data, making efforts in legislation, not just in election cycles, but in beyond. So that's really cool that you're involved, and everybody in the room being involved is so exciting. So I love that.
Awesome. We have time for another question for Brilyn.
Hi, my name's Joe. I'm a visiting graduate student in the Department of Government. And I wanted to ask you a bit more about your comment on college-age women, which you said is a demographic that the Republicans need to reach out to. Now, we know that reproductive rights has been a huge point of contention this election cycle, perhaps a point of strength for the Democrats and a relative point of weakness for the Republicans. So I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts on how you think the Republicans could reach across that gap, because I can personally attest to that being a huge factor for women like me.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. That is the number one issue, I think, with youth voters, specifically with female voters across the aisle, regardless of the age gap. I think that this is something where Republicans haven't necessarily explained themselves on in the past. When I brought up the Make America Talk Again saying it's something I mentioned in my book, and a lot of Republicans were like, oh, we're not exactly going to go there. We're going to be firm on our stance, but we're not going to explain our stance. And I just think that's the wrong way of going about it. I think that's why it's been a losing issue. I think that's why we lost the 2022 midterms. We've lost subsequent elections, after that race, because we don't actually explain our stance. We go up the podium, we say that we're pro-life and proud of it, and then we run away and we don't actually explain why we're pro-life and proud of it. So I think that explaining that we're pro-family, explaining that we're pro-woman, is something that needs to happen. Seeing JD Vance do that could be interesting. I really saw through social media a few weeks ago, somebody replied to one of JD Vance's posts about the economy, and he put out like a 4-paragraph explainer where he put, stance by stance by stance of why this is their policy thing. If JD Vance did that tonight, explaining, stance by stance by stance of why he is pro-life, seeing that would be really cool than just saying a hashtag that we're pro-life and moving on. This is absolutely something that Republicans have lacked on in the past. You're exactly right. It's a frustration that I've explained internally within our party, something that we need to make up ground on, and hopefully we make up that ground tonight. We'll see.
Awesome. Well, Brilyn, I want to thank you for taking time out of your very long day, I'm sure, to come and speak with us and to share your thoughts. And to keep up with Brilyn, I think you can follow him on social media at, can you spell it out for us, please?
Yes, it's at Brilyn Hollyhand, BRILYN HOLLYHAND. But I really appreciate y'all. Thank you so much. And please keep up the hard work. I appreciate what you're doing there.
Awesome. Take care.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks. Give him a hand. Awesome.